It's the final round of the season for the driving club at Road Atlanta. It's Spa-Francorchamps here in Belgium for the last round of this 4-round season. 4 drivers going for the championship fight one final time in 2022, at least in the spring, before we kick off another season here in just a couple of weeks. Kyle Heyer joined by Finian D'Cunha for the last round of the season. Just 4 drivers here tonight, Finian. But what that means is that it's going to matter where you kind of get yourself in line, because once you get yourself spread out, it's going to be really difficult to make up ground.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Want to try to utilize the long straightaways out of here, especially in the front and the back end of the track, to really get a chance to slingshot, make some passes happen. Although, again, with a decently sized amount of length in the race, it's going to be kind of hard to do. But interesting what these guys can do from Spa. We're a long way from Road Atlanta. Yeah,
a long way from where we kicked things off earlier in the season. Qualifying is underway. We'll take you there in just a moment. Couple quick factoids here about Stavelot, Belgium, where this track is. Population about 6,700 people. The track, this variant of it, constructed back in 1979, although the track has existed for much longer. Eau Rouge, named after the river that runs below the track, named such because of the red clay deposits that you can find in the water, hence making it red. Here's a look at the circuit we're at tonight, about 7 kilometers long. It all begins with a run up at La Source, Finian, before we head down the hill through Eau Rouge and up to Radion. A wild sequence of corners that is known around the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you head into the combs, arguably one of the best passing opportunities due to the straightaway and the drafting that goes down through that section. Then down through the mountain, you'll go then through Pouin, another famous left-hand corner. Very tricky to get done. I was doing a few laps in the session here, just in the spectator mode, and it's a bit slippery down in that sector of track. Then heading through Campus, Stavelot, and then Blanchemont. That's another section where you can potentially get off wide if you're not careful, and then the chicane to complete the lap.
Yeah, it's a quick lap around here. It's not in time, but in speed. High average speeds around this place. Take you about 2 minutes and 20 seconds at the rate we've seen so far. But qualifying is underway already. And Campbell is back for another one. He's in the number 14 Porsche. We have 3 different vehicles across 4 entrants in this race. Campbell, of course, in the number 14 Porsche 911 GT3R. Christopher Habib in the number 2. That is one of the Audi R8 LMS GT3s here. And then Anthony Couch also running one of those Audi R8 LMSs. And then Berg in the number 4. That is a Mercedes AMG GT3. This car is a unique one in particular because, you know, you'd think by the grunt and the sound of it that you'd have a car that is really fast on the straightaways. I think this is going to be a weak point, this track, for this car.
Yeah, we will have to see how he's going to play out. Obviously, only of his make. So, if that Mercedes has got anything, maybe if he has it set up, maybe to handle a little bit better in some of the corners to try to handle, or otherwise, because he's going to have to find speed some other way. But currently setting his lap, we do know that he has some decent pace, regardless of being in a Mercedes. We'll see what he can get done, though. Christopher Habib, the man to be, just set at 221.8.
Yeah, there's that time at 221.8. That's one of the faster times we've seen so far here today in practice before. Drivers not really knocking themselves much below that 220 mark. This is a track that is long enough that if you are off about a half a tenth in every corner, that adds up to a lot of time given up by the end of the lap. So that's one of these tracks, just like the Nürburgring Nordschleife. If you have a little bit of a mistake in each corner, it's going to add up to seconds by the end of the lap, which is why we're going to see probably some fairly large lap time differences. And this is a place also that will bite you if you crash. There's a few places you can get off course that are not a big deal, but some of them can end up with you in the Armco pretty hard.
Yeah, absolutely. And also see if he's in behind Anthony Couch. Now, one thing you really want to do, if you really want to get a good lap in, is you can use the slipstream of the car up ahead. Track, you know, when you're talking about the long straightaways and a lot of throttle time, you can try to use that to your advantage just to get some slipstream. But working through Pouin, you see him catch the curb and spin out right there. That's what I was talking about before. Got to be very careful through this section. Very easy for the back end to get out.
Yeah, this is one of those turns, especially in a mid-engine car, that it kind of will turn around like a tabletop here on corner entry. Enters really low, gets the curb. He's going to run out. The car is already sideways by the time he got to the outside curb there, Finian. It's an interesting dynamic to watch as the car enters the corner. Watch this again. He's going to clip this curb on the inside, just lifts the left side tires up, and then right here as it lands, it's going to destabilize the car. He was already gone before he got to that outside curb, but went for a long slide. Kept it going straight after that, though. Nice save, but he will reset back to the pits. Anthony Couch, the only other driver to lay down a time so far. The other thing to consider yourself with here, Finian, is all the track limits. Getting a qualifying lap here is especially difficult because you have to stay within the white lines at all times. And if you go outside of these bounds, you're going to get yourself one of those off-track penalties and invalidate your lap.
Yeah, and they have made it a little bit easier than it has been in the past. They've been a little bit lighter on the off tracks compared to how Spa used to be. Used to be horrible. Anytime the Spot 24 came around, everyone always lost a license or two due to the sheer amount of incidents.
I was going to say, I lost my Class A license in iRacing in 2018. And to the 24 hours of Spa race, I still am a Class B driver because of that. So, yeah, it certainly can bite, although tonight it won't be a huge deal with the exception of qualifying.
No, really won't. I don't think, these guys don't have a incident. Oh, actually, sorry, they do have an incident limit, 20 every 20 incidents. And at 40, you get a penalty at every 20. At 40, you get DQ'd. So don't be too crazy. Keep yourself a little bit tamed and reel in because you don't want to be running too far off the track. But like I said, it's been a lot better than it has been in the past, so these guys shouldn't have too much of an issue.
Yeah, and for Cameron Campbell in particular, he's had trouble getting a lap time on the board, at least a legal one, so that's maybe a concern for him is if you're getting an off-track or two every lap, those will start to stack up on you pretty quickly, so you have to keep that in mind. Christopher Habib has provisional pole by about a 1/10 of a second over Berg in the Mercedes AMG, who's still attacking pretty aggressively here, I'd say, through Pujon. And a great look over the shoulder here. Love the sound of the Mercedes. Certainly one of the more interesting cars to listen to.
Yeah, we're going to lose the back section, of course, to the right-hander through the left-hander.
Oh, there's a little understeer mid-corner into some snap oversteer. Got it collected nicely, though. But this car, again, despite its sound and despite how muscular it looks, its real advantage is in the smaller, twistier tracks. Places like Sonoma, it really excels at, but these larger tracks with a lot of straight, this engine kind of runs out of steam sooner than you'd think. And part of that's the gearing as well. It's not geared particularly great for long straights because it makes a lot of its torque down low, and when you're up in the high in the rev range, you're not going to be doing yourself a lot of good.
Yeah, we'll see if he can find, and he's going to need to find about just a little under 2/10 of a second. Accelerates back to the front straightaway. He comes across the line right here. We'll see, is it fast enough to get pole?
Not quite. 220.6. Oh, actually, you know what? It is a 220.642. He does go quicker. And
by a lot.
By 1.2 seconds, yeah. So that will certainly put him on provisional pole for now. Anthony Couch is heading through Blanchimont. This is another high-speed turn that you can destabilize the car. Especially these Audis are really rear-happy in these high-speed sections. They don't have a lot of high-speed stability. But we'll see if Couch is on a flyer here. I think he's just warming up.
Yeah, he actually went for a spin, so even regardless, this current lap is not going to count. Still has 2 more attempts to go. Cameron Campbell trying to just get on the board as he works his way through the final chicane. 2:28 is his last lap time. I imagine that was him having some incidents, but across the line now to set a lap. 2:26, but not going to count.
Yeah, again, invalidated for running wide, so that's going to be another lap that this is his 4th lap that he's on that he has had an off track. So when you talk about incident limits, this is a driver that has to circle those and say, you know what, I got to behave during the race, get yourself a penalty pretty easily. And if everyone else behaves themselves, you're going to have a really hard time catching up to them. There's not going to be a lot of traffic tonight. And, oh, that's a big hit for Campbell. Man. Talk about Spa being famous for crashes. This is an area where it's actually seen some recent changes because of incidents like that. Holy cow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but for now, we still have the old version where it's still extremely dangerous.
Yeah, and this is, this is just kind of right hooked. A lot of times you'll see crashes where the car will impact to the left, but here, and bam, into the wall.
As he's working up the hill, you can kind of see the car bounce a little bit, just getting unstable because you're putting so much load. Because cars are so fast nowadays and have so much downforce, you can pretty much go full throttle through that section, but the problem is you're still putting a lot of weight on either side of the car, and a lot of that weight's having to shift over. So just losing a little bit, the car bumping up and down, just getting unstabilized. Similar to what we saw with Habib's spin in Pouin. Car just lost control and off he went to the right side. But that's good. You have to be very careful in that section. You may want to do just a tiny bit of a lift just to be sure, because like you said, the crash out, you're going to be losing quite a bit because there's only 4 drivers. So I have to see guys trying to risk it to go a little bit faster and guys trying to be a little bit more conservative maybe to make it to the end.
Yeah, certainly something to be paying attention to as Habib enters the left-hand section here at Pouin. And accelerates out. And again, that curb on the outside is a nasty drop-off that you and I both found, I think, at Spa a couple of years ago. If you run off track.
I definitely found it because I was the first one to damage the car. It came out of absolutely nowhere because I was like, I'm not going to force the car and try to potentially spin out into traffic and ruin our race in the first hour or two. Or actually, no, it was I think hour 3 or 4. So I went a little bit. I just ditched the corner, went a little bit wide. I'll take the off track, and then there was a magic bump that I never knew about before. Threw the car up in the air, went spinning to the inside Armco barrier.
Yeah, that bump is magical, like Lord Voldemort is magical. It's not magical for the right reasons or the right ways, and Habib's going to go for a spin. Can he keep it out of the fence? He will. But again, this is one of those fast areas where this car doesn't have a lot of natural stability right here. You can actually, great shot here, you can actually see, if I rewind this just a little bit, when he turns in, he flicks the car in really hard, and right there, it's coming around fast before he even really got to the corner. He just flicks the car in really aggressively, snap. When he does that, it just takes all the downforce off the rear.
Yeah, and he even let off the throttle too. So he was actually he was coasting through there. But like you said, I think that sharp turn in that was just enough to unsettle the car. You hear it slow down.
Yeah, and that's the thing is slowing down in that instance, and you'll hear this again. He's going to lift and then turn in, and what that does is it has, with all the drag on the car, it's going to shift all the weight forward. And when you shift all the weight forward and you turn in sharp, what are you going to do? You're going to bring the rear end around, and it's going to happen quickly here at 140.
Yeah, definitely say if you can do anything in the car, definitely put in some more rear wing or try to make the car more stable in the rear.
Certainly, you could do that. The other thing that probably would have prevented that spin is just if you're going to lift and you have to slow the car down, leave a little bit of what we would call maintenance throttle in there just to keep some weight shifted towards the rear of the car, because when you have rear instability going through a high-speed corner, just don't shift all the weight noseward and you're going to have a better time. So that's something to take note of as well. You can jump on the brakes, just feed in a little bit of throttle there just to balance those forces out. It'll help you quite a bit. Berg, Habib, Couch, and Campbell, your top 4 here in qualifying. Campbell has yet to put in a time that is counted, and with 3 minutes to go, he's not going to get one that counts.
Yeah, and also for Habib, I saw him go a little bit slow. He went wide, I think, or cut the course up through radio. So he had to give up some time, and he is not going to have enough time. Because remember, with the laps, as soon as the timer hits zero, qualifying's immediately going to end. So you can't finish the lap. So he's not going to be able to put in any more laps. It's not going to matter. Anyways, he goes flying hard into the barriers in Pouin.
Yeah, again, you're right on board. This one, I think, might have been more that you're heading downhill, too. But let's listen to the throttle. And you're going to be off throttle here. Off throttle, downshifts. So that time he was just sort of coasting. But same thing there. If you just leave a little bit of throttle in, you don't have to be accelerating. Just not stop the decel before you turn in. And that do all your braking in a straight line in this car, I think, is the best approach to it.
Yeah, Heavy Couch has just come across the line. Unfortunately, his lap time did not count, and saw him go a little bit sideways in his final lap. So qualifying is essentially over for 4 drivers. Berg's going to take pole by 1.2 seconds. That's a pretty sizable gap. So here's to see if any of these guys have anything in store. And look here in practice. In practice, he actually didn't even look that fast. And his fastest time in practice was 0.6 off Habib's time. So was definitely hiding that pace.
Yeah, keep an eye on the track temperature as well. It's pretty warm, over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, which is making for a pretty slick surface. What about the points situation here, Finney? We are in our 4th round of our season, but it sounds like our points leader is not here this evening.
No, yet David Madden, who's been doing really well in this series, has not shown up this week. These drivers are given 1 drop week of the 4 weeks that they competed for this spring season. So he had about 100 points lead, and if I did my calculation, actually it's not even going to matter with the calculations because he was here the other 3 weeks, so he's essentially locking up the championship. Unfortunately, we can't celebrate with him, but he has 50 points. He has basically twice the amount of points over the second place guy. So I think even if they were here, wouldn't be able to catch him.
Yeah, that'll do it. Just being very consistent and being in command of the races that you're a part of means you can take a day off and still walk away with the championship trophy. Habib,
like Lewis.
Yeah, there it is. There it is. Or Kyle Busch, for that matter, although Kyle's was a bit more forced.
Kyle took like a few months.
Yeah. Extended vacation for the NASCAR fans.
Although he did it in reverse. He took it off before he glitched.
Yeah, exactly. He just had to work really hard when he got back to the office. So, Christopher Habib in the number 2 is going to be the last driver on track, but qualifying is complete. And again, Blanchimont, well, that time he saved it. He's getting really good at drifting through there, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I was going to say his tires are going to ask him to stop.
Yes. And if there was a crew chief, probably the crew chief as well. But that's going to do it for qualifying. Berg, Habib, Couch, and Campbell will be your starting lineup. We'll bring you to it again here in just a moment as we head down to the racetrack. So 2 races, as always, a 12-lapper and an 18-lapper, Finian. So that's going to be about 28 minutes for this first race. The second race will be a little bit longer, another 12 or so. So it's going to be about 28 and then 40 respectively. So that'll be our full race length will be just over an hour tonight. We'll head down to the racetrack here in a moment. We'll roll through our starting lineup and our starting grid. But how about the scenes around here at Stavelot, Belgium? One of the most beautiful tracks, I think, in Europe, Finian, and it's been around for a long time, not always in this form, but some of those country roads there used to be a part of this race circuit before it was converted to a full-time circuit, at least this configuration back in 1979.
Yeah, you can actually see at the bottom right there, you were able to see the left-hand turn at the end of where the current Lacombe chicanes are. You would make a left turn out off the track and you would head out into the countryside. I don't know if you've ever driven the old version of Spa. It is terrifying. It is absolutely terrifying. I drove with the 1967 F1 mod around the old track, and I can definitely see why they went to a permanent racetrack.
Yeah, definitely needed that, that's for sure. All right, 4 drivers on the grid. Row number 1, A. Berg in the number 4 Mercedes, alongside Christopher Habib in the number 2 blue and white Audi R8 LMS. Row 2, Anthony Couch in the red and black Audi R8. Cameron Campbell in the number 14 Porsche 911 GT3R. That's it for tonight. 28 minutes, 12 laps on the board for the first of our 2 races here this evening. Pace car pulls off. Time to go racing. The driving club at Road Atlanta Racing League here at Spa-Francorchamps for the final race of the season. And it's going to be a long wait to get to that green flag.
I was going to say we're taking it on the other side.
Yep, that's what I meant by a long wait. But Berg, Habib, going to be warming up their tires at the last moment. Quick look at the weather before we round the turn and take the green. Track temp 107. Already Habib going to grab one of those off tracks before the race even starts, so I'll have to keep count of that. Down the hill now towards the very, very famous Eau Rouge and Radillon complex. Green flag, we're racing in the driving club at Road Atlanta here at Spa. Through Eau Rouge and up through Radillon, Berg, Habib, Couch, and Campbell stay nose to tail on the long run down towards Les Combes, which is that right-left chicane that leads then into the next section. They call that Malmedy, into Bruxelles, and then No Name.
He looked like he was getting a solid slips from the back of Berg. Unfortunately, couldn't quite get there. But the big thing is going to be just staying in the toe of the driver in front. If you can manage that, you can actually hang on for quite a while and even make a pass. So we'll have to see how these guys work through the first lap, though. Cold tires as Berg slipping and sliding through the hairpin.
Down towards No Name now. Big slide out of the Mercedes up front. Into the left-hander, a lot of destabilization there on the turn-in. He's sliding that car around. That could affect tire temperature later in this race, so be cautious of how much you're moving around on those rear tires. Into Pujon, this is where the Audis are going to struggle on lap 1. Cold tires. Can Habib and Couch hang on? There goes Couch sliding.
Ooh, and the Porsche just narrowly working his way around the outside, so Campbell's going to sneak his way on through and get third place. As Couch has misfortune on lap number 1.
Yeah, cold tires and high-speed corners. This is something that we were sort of expecting to see out of these Audis. They're fast cars, but they are not as stable. The Mercedes has always been a very stable platform, but lacks the legs on the straightaway. So the big difference here, I think Habib is going to be all over this 4 if he can stay on top of him heading into the back straightaway again, which they call the Campbell straight.
And here in trying to see here if he can make up any sort of time, also working his way through Blanchemont on the back end, step out just a smidge, not anywhere near as bad as qualifying, but I will say in comparison though, that Mercedes looks a lot more planted.
Yeah, again, we know Habib is on eggshells right now. We saw that in qualifying. He was testing it to see how hard he could throw the car off in there, and you kind of have to, in a GT3 car, you're going fast enough where you have to pinch off the speed just a touch. It's full throttle barely, with a good setup in the right line, but if you get any of those things off, it's going to be a problem. Couch off again, this time at Blanchemont, Finian.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's basically having the problems we were thinking Habib may have, and I guess makes sense because he's also in an Audi.
Yeah, exactly the same.
A little too hard. Yeah,
exactly the same, yeah, as we saw with Habib in qualifying. So Couch struggling so far. Meanwhile, up through Radion, looks like Berg has made it, and Habib is right behind him. 0.7 of a second is within draft range, but he is losing touch here a little bit.
Yeah, he is. He is not actually carrying as much top-end speed despite being in the slipstream.
Could be down to setup as well. Let's keep that in mind. Whoa, Berg got real sideways. I'm not confident that even with the stability of the Mercedes, Berg's being very aggressive with the steering inputs, and that can get you into trouble too.
Yeah, that is always a thing. And I will say, though, with Habib, with him pushing in qualifying, better to push and find the limits in qualifying than you win in the race. So that is a smarter thing to do. Not probably the best thing to do in qualifying, but definitely a smarter thing to do. Just try to figure out the limits of the car beforehand, because when you kind of know what to feel for and how far you can push the car when you're in, what to do when you're in a bad situation.
Oh, so he be right out to the edge of the curbing there, and that just tells me that he's letting the car walk on him a touch. He doesn't feel confident keeping that car tight. And at Pujon, there is a reason that you wouldn't necessarily want to track all the way out. If you got the downforce in these GT3 cars to keep it a little tighter than he did. So I think he's still feeling, a little uncomfortable at the moment.
The big important thing is he is still keeping touch with Berg. He's going to remain within a second, so has the number 4 Mercedes in his sights.
Yeah, and that gap has actually come down a little bit on this particular lap, so that's good news for Habib in the Audi into Blanchemont. Watch the Mercedes, a big moment there for Berg. Holy cow, let's go back and have a look at that. Here's what that looked like. Turns in and watch this car wiggle. Wiggle once, wiggle twice, wiggle 3 times. There's the big correction. That was certainly a scare for the driver inside that 4.
Yeah, I thought he actually clipped the curb, but it was more the fact he just turned in early and then had to kind of stop turning, otherwise he would have ran over the curb and didn't really spin out that way. And then Habib, big dive on entry with Berg getting a better exit.
Yeah, I think his confidence is gaining, though, as we get a little bit deeper into this race. The tire temperature is there now, so he's able to attack a little bit more aggressively. See him all over the curbs through Radion.
Did he get a cut course?
I don't think so. I don't think he was far enough over to get a cut course there. Anthony Couch has had more trouble.
And this day's already gone from bad to worse for the number 3.
Day's gone from bad to out. He's out of the race. Here's a look. Turns in and just didn't quite have the line right. And right here, couldn't get it spun back around it into the concrete, and that's going to be terminal damage for the number 3.
Yeah, when you spin in the inside of that, it's a very helpless feeling, especially when you can't exactly lock the brakes. If you can lock the brakes, it's fine, but the car continues to roll with its momentum. Unfortunately, rolled hard into the wall. So,
oh, trouble! The leader spins, and look out! Berg squeezes around, or rather, Habib does around Berg. That was extremely tight. I can't believe they got out of that without crashing into each other, Finian.
That was genuinely impressive that Habib got through without any damage.
Whoa! How close could that?
You need to get a slow-mo of that, because that was extremely close.
Look at this. Wow. I don't even believe that they didn't touch. I mean, that's got to be on the order of centimeters.
Yeah, Habib timed that perfectly, whether he liked it or not.
Woof. Didn't hear any contact. But the leader spins out. and drops now down to second place. Cameron Campbell is just behind in the 14. He's got a carrot dangling in front of him now.
Yeah, no mistakes from the 14. Hasn't been the fastest of laps, but he's just kind of keeping it going in the right direction. He's up in third. Again, Georgia Good gets second, and we see another slip up from Berg. And that leaves Habib, so Habib's at a bit of a crossroads. He can try to push and make sure he maintains that lead, or he can just reel it back a smidge and try to make sure the car stays on the track.
Well, he was already quicker than Berg on that last lap around, so I think he's better. It's just a matter of now being consistent. You've got a 14-second lead. You've got time to burn. You could lose a second a lap and still not lose this race. So I wouldn't be afraid to give up a little bit of time in the name of safety at this point. There's Cameron Campbell in the number 14. But he is losing touch with Berg now.
Battle of the Germans. One Audi, one Mercedes, one Porsche.
Ooh, another big power slide for Berg. He's really working those rear tires, and again, now they're just going to be hot and really upset from spinning out a little while ago, so it's going to take a couple laps for those things to cool back down, and that's if you were treating them right to begin with. There goes that Porsche over the top of the Eau Rouge camera.
Yeah, I'm curious how much Berg's going to be pushing, because, I mean, he really doesn't have much to lose, right? You know, at this point, you want to just kind of get the win, so if you can try to push for that first place, like you said, Habib has some pretty decent pace, and now is also in some clean air. He doesn't have anyone to chase. He can just kind of get his head down and put some laps in.
Oh, Habib.
Although it seems like through the last sector, Berg made up about half a second.
Yeah, Campbell's still struggling through. Whoa, big bobble there again for Berg. Kind of struggling with this middle sector a lot from what I can tell. Gets up onto the curb here. But again, you can't take the inherent stability of the Mercedes for granted. You still got to drive smoothly. But keeping an eye on Berg's lap times here. Wow. Definitely getting the most out of the power steering tonight, I'll tell you that. It's right on board with a replay from the over-the-shoulder camera here. Watch this.
Yeah, that was...
Big downshift was the one that upset the chassis that time through.
Yeah, a little bit off the track as we just come back to him live. Yeah, you got to be. It's such a terrifying feeling as a driver when you're going through a section like that, and you feel the steering get light. That's a terrifying thing to feel because you know the tires have lost traction. You're potentially going for a spin. He did a fantastic job keeping the car going straight. Lost a little bit of time doing it, but yeah, it seems like he just can't really push the car because he's pretty much getting as much of it as he can. He gets a little bit of the grass on entry through Blanchard, but that car is really unstable.
Yeah, it's evil right now. And again, the first couple laps it was okay. I think, I mean, he was driving aggressively, but now I think he's compounding the issue with those hot tires. And as we mentioned, the weather certainly a concern. That track temp, 107 degrees Fahrenheit, is nothing to shrug at. But Habib in the number 2 leads the way by 15.9 seconds, and what we thought would be a stability issue for the 2 has actually turned into quite a stable lead.
Yeah, I was going to say we were concerned that Habib was going to be the one potentially spinning out, but it seems like the opposite. It seems like the 4 more of the unstable car, and Habib is putting in some solid lap times. 122.5 last time to Berg's 123.6.
223.6 there.
Sorry, 223.
It'd be a really fast lap. He's running 123s. That'd be a world record, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say, give the F1 cars on for their money.
It'll beat the F1 cars. But Campbell still got Berg way up the road out of the windshield for the time being, about halfway through this race, not quite halfway. And Berg trying to gain some time back. He can see that relative. As soon as he gets the car going the right direction, he's actually gaining a little bit of ground back on Habib, but it's just not consistent enough. You can see it wiggling still.
Still just breaking into the back end, so his rear end stability is just not looking good. And I'm curious how much of this between setup and also maybe driving style too. He's just kind of, it seems maybe with some frustration, he's kind of throwing the car into some of these corners, and that's not helping the issue.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, that was crossing the curbing that time, but yeah, I think the input is sort of matching the output in some instances. But here, oh, see that also, I know this car in the past has had a little bit of trouble with smooth downshifts. Now, remember, these cars are true paddle shift semi-automatic transmissions, and what that means is all you have to do is click up and down to go up and down gears, and that includes the throttle cut and the rev matching. that would come, as an extra step in a manual transmission car. But in this car, I've noticed in the past, and it used to be worse, but I've noticed on downshift, this car really likes to kind of destabilize itself. And you used to be able to solve it by sort of self-blipping. So you kind of add some blip to the computer on the way down, and it would keep the rear end from stepping out. But you can see, downshift mid-corner, this car is still not happy.
Yeah, throwing into the final chicane now. Still looking a little bit slower.
Yeah, I mean, that gap isn't getting that much bigger. It's 15.6. And that time through, he was only 0.2 off of Habib. So he's got pace if he can just keep the car together. And again, into turn 1, you see the rear end slide. But he's definitely being very aggressive with it and driving it like he's on the road, driving a low-slung V8 rear-wheel drive car. It looks like a lot of fun the way he's driving, but again, I think it's causing him some strife with the rear tire temp.
Yeah, I was going to say, usually the fun way to drive is not the fastest way to drive.
Right.
And definitely the case in the number 4 machine, but Habib working his way through Lacombe as Berg is halfway down the Campbell straight. About 15, almost 16 seconds now separating the two.
And here's the race leader again in the number 2, the Audi R8 LMS. That is on top of the order. Now, he started this race in second place, had provisional pole for a little while, but it was Berg that overtook him late in the session. But now Chris has established himself out front pretty consistently as we work our way towards the halfway point.
Yeah, I'm trying to think with Berg what he can really do, right? Because I don't think between races you're allowed to change your setup, are you?
Well, I don't see why you couldn't, right? I mean, you get the garage straight, no?
I honestly don't know. I haven't even thought of trying to change it. So I'm not sure if you can change between eights.
Oh, big slide there for 2. I think the garage screen is accessible because you can change fuel levels and that sort of thing, so I don't see why you wouldn't be able to.
Oh, right. Yeah, you're right.
I just don't know how much, what do you really change? Everything's a trade-off here, right? If you gain stability, you're going to lose a lot of straightaway speed, and that is something that Mercedes already lacks.
Yeah, although it's kind of wondering, it's one of those things where I got a question which is worth more to you, so more rear end stability or the straight line speed. You could argue if you had maybe a little bit less straight line speed, could have at least been trying to fight or hold on with the 2. But, hindsight is always 20/20. So I think he's going to potentially think of what he can try to do, make adjustments, or if not, just maybe adjust his driving style. But I definitely don't think, unless we see Habib make a big mistake, I don't think there's going to be too much of a change in the order, at least for Heat 1.
Yeah, 15 seconds is the differential, 222.644 for the race leader, and 15 seconds back, here comes the 4 car, climbing up over the sausages.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's climbing over the sausages is the last thing you want to do. Lost a little bit of time in doing so.
And that time through a 222.959, 0.3 slower. 16.5 is the differential. Cameron Campbell still running. Ooh, he's got some big damage. He just had a crash in Blanchimont.
Oh, yeah.
And this was a big one here. Oh, there's the aftermath of it. But again, turns in. This is a rear engine car, so I'd be curious how he got himself into this position. Just turns in and just walks on him.
Yeah, again, just the back end's been slipping out. Everyone's been loose in the rear end. Again, I think partly due to driving style, partly due to setup, also just partly due to the track temperature. I mean, it's not melting hot, but it's definitely on the warmer side of things, and that's going to make it a little bit less grip to work through. And at such a high rate of speed when you're putting such a load in the car, that's going to matter.
Yeah, and again, the other thing with the Porsche is if you get a lot of slip angle in it, because the engine's over the rear axle, if you get the car sideways, it doesn't return to center, like a front engine car would, or even a mid-engine car, even though those kind of spin like tops here in iRacing. And the rear engine car, if you get it out sideways, it's like a pendulum. It just kind of wants to swing back and forth, and it'll continue to get worse and worse. And I think there it caught Cameron out. But that front end damage, again, with the beauty about the Porsche is that all the important stuff's out back. So he should be able to continue, albeit with some aerodynamic damage on the nose of that car. Here's the 2 leading the way. And entering the last sector here on lap 7 of 12 in race 1.
Yeah, I got to say, Habib, ever since qualifying, ever since we've looked at that car, it's been buttery smooth, it seems, the ride in the 2. I haven't seen him have the car step out. Haven't seen him aggressively attacking the curb, so things seem to be good in the number 2 machine. A little bit of step out there, as I say that.
Yeah, qualifying was tough for him, and not in time. He was quick, but it seemed like the consistency wasn't there. But as soon as we hit the race, he backed it down about 10%, and he's found a very comfortable pace at which to run. And comes up onto the front straightaway and continues to run solid laps. That time, again, very consistent. 2:22.6 is the last 3 laps. So he's really found something here as we hit lap number 8. And the 4-car Berg really sideways into the chicane here.
Yeah, just threw it in too deep again. I think he's kind of looking at the relative, trying to see if he can make up time. And outbraked himself down there.
Yeah, just got in too deep. And that's a good thing about cars with ABS is you can just keep holding the pedal, it'll keep stopping. Versus the non-ABS equivalent, which would be locking that thing up and going straight off into the runoff for ages.
Yeah, I remember a time long ago where in the GT3 cars, you basically had to turn off traction control and ABS to be faster. That's when they first released the things. Come a long way.
Yeah, they have, and part of that comes down to simulating motorsports ABS and motorsports traction control. This is not the same kind of traction control you'd get in your, Hyundai Elantra. This is fancy, there's fancy code happening in the real car and in the sim, code replicating code, right? So that's a complicated thing that took them a while to figure out.
I'm trying to actually think if the McLaren GT3, that was one of the first cars to have ABS. I'm trying to think if there's any other older car that had ABS.
I think the Jetta does. But the Jetta is, again, a street car, so it had street car ABS. The Mustang has had it.
Mustang had it. Okay.
But I think that might be street car ABS. I don't think that was...
Because I think everyone raced with it off at that time. I don't think really anyone had it on.
I don't even think on those cars it was an option. It's just built in.
Oh, you're okay. That's
Yeah.
I'm like trying to think if I remember seeing that.
Yeah, the first cars with traction control that you could actually adjust was probably the McLaren.
Yeah.
And
and Berg around again.
Oh, slide. Gathers it back up. Where is he on the track? Oh, it looks like this is over in the
After Puma.
Yeah, the Lefania area here. Ooh, yeah. And again, I think I heard the engine rev really high. Right on board. Just listen to the engine again. Yeah, a little early on the downshifts there, so that probably didn't help. But does a good job. He's done a really good job of keeping the car out of the wall. Which, if you can't finish the race without spinning, you might as well finish the race without hitting anything. And you don't want to count your blessings, though.
Every time he goes to these high downforce sections, I kind of whinge a little bit when I see the car wobbling about, but he's been wheeling it through.
It's fun to watch, that's for sure. He's definitely the star of the show tonight in terms of being the most interesting car to follow.
His car looks as unstable as the Mercedes F1 this year.
Well, that's too soon.
He's just not bouncing up and down violently on the straightaways.
I'll give it time. So about 9 minutes left in this race, about 3.5 laps left to go. Have another look at the weather information. 106 degrees Fahrenheit. So track temp has fallen just a touch.
Oh, God. Working through radio, and his car stepped out just a little bit as he's heading up.
I don't believe you when you say just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little wiggle.
Well, let's go back and see what you think is a little wiggle. Here's a look. Wow. Busy hands at 150 miles an hour, that's for sure.
He made it look easy, too, which is the crazy part.
So 20-second lead just about for the number 2, who has led since essentially, lap number 2 or 3? It's led 6 of 8 that we've completed. And at this point, it's just about bringing it home and not making mistakes that will give up that time. But even if you do make a mistake or spin out, you've got to, as long as you don't hit anything, you've got a bit of buffer left to kill.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? So I think for Habib, you can, if you really wanted to at this point, you probably start slowing down like 3-4 seconds a lap and still walk away with the trophy. Obviously, I don't think you're going to do that. In a lot of cases, it just kind of just benefit. You just kind of keep going at the pace you've been working with, as long as you've not been pushing the car to its limits, which we definitely know Habib's not. He's been driving, as you mentioned before, nice, comfortable pace. He's in his kind of own little zone. So 3 laps to go. It's a matter of just kind of keeping that pace going.
3 to go. About 7 minutes left on the clock for the first race. And that time, a 2:22.520. That was even a slight pickup from his previous lap as Berg sails through Blanchimont again.
Yeah, he hit the curb in Blanchimont. The car went out wide. Seen worse.
Getting after it still.
He's been struggling a lot out of the low-speed corners too. It just seems like the tires have been just spinning up. Again, I think he's been applying the throttle a little bit more aggressively than he probably should be doing. But
you can see leaving tire marks out of it. Again, he's probably having way more fun than everybody else is right now driving that thing. That's probably my car of choice too, out of the group that, out of the ones that are here. Although I'm a fan of the Porsche as well. But Cameron Campbell's had a pretty quiet night other than his off track at Blanchimont. Finishing out the season. Yeah.
About 53 seconds behind the leader, 34 seconds behind Berg.
The 2 car now down the hill. And again, there are moments when I look at the timing screen and I see that gap be smaller, but it just doesn't stay that way. Berg gains ground in some areas, then loses it massively in others. It's like 1 step forward, 2 steps back at almost every corner.
Yeah, it's kind of, these cars are both fairly even on a good day, and unfortunately for Berg, hasn't been quite there. He has the potential for some speed, but the problem is again just the car stepping out here and there, and him having to recover it. It's losing him a few tenths here, a few tenths there, and that's resulting in just an overall loss of couple tenths. As you mentioned this beginning of the broadcast too, you make a few mistakes here and there. It amounts up because of the length of the lap.
Yeah, what is there? 20 corners or something like that, 22 corners around here, and you add up a tenth of a second a lap, or a tenth of a second a corner, I should say. That's 2.2 seconds every single lap. That is a lot of time to give up, and a tenth of a second is not a lot to give up per corner. So it's just one of those things that adds up over time, and you end up with these big gaps here as Habib works through Blanchimont. Coming to 2 laps to go, 5 minutes remaining on the clock. He's just done a really nice job and has been very methodical. And having the lead helps because you're not, there's no carrot to chase, but it's also really easy to accidentally back down and give all that time back. But he's struck a balance of staying on pace and keeping the car going the right direction.
Yeah, all he has to do is do it for 2 more laps, and he'll be taking home the race 1 win. He's going to have arguably a harder time in the second race. He's got to do it for 18 laps, and he's got to worry that Berg's caught back up. And even Berg's now, I imagine, a little bit warmed up for the race. Who aggressive over through radio for Habib.
And here is Berg now heading down the hill, heading that way.
I mean, last time they were on pace, both their lap times were almost exactly even, off by like 0.04 of a second in favor of Habib.
Yeah, it's really close. I mean, the distances we're talking about with Berg losing time is not a lot, but it's he's only lost 3 or 4 seconds over the last 8 laps of this race after his initial spin. But it certainly has been fun to watch. Habib now in the number 2, heading down towards Pouhon for the penultimate time. This is a corner that will bite you, but again, once you're 11 laps in on these tires, this Audi is going to be fairly compliant. It's not going to give you a lot of strife. But in qualifying, they really weren't getting more than a lap or 2 of temp into the tires, so that was a bigger struggle then than it was now. So at this point, this car is probably handling about as good as it's going to get. The fuel load is burning off. It's getting lighter and more, a little bit more docile towards the end of the race.
He's still throwing the car in hard and entering some of these corners as he works through campus.
Out to the rumble strip now and towards Blanchimont. Now watch the speeds. We've been, talking about speeds up to the 150 range. We're going to see Habib kind of bleed off a little bit on entry here. But 153, going to slow it down there to 141 at apex and then back on throttle. So up over the curbs for the number 2 Finini. He's going to pick up the white flag this time through.
Yeah, 1 more lap for Habib. Just kind of looking at Berg by comparison. And Berg's been throwing it through Blanchimont. He went up to 154. Only just a small lift off the gas, slowed only to 148 at the apex. So he's flying and carrying a lot more speed through there. In fact, he actually made quite a bit of time to get down to 17.5 seconds.
Yeah, that was about a second gain that time through a 1.3 second gain, but needed that a lot longer ago if he wanted to affect the outcome of this particular race. Through turn 1 for Berg, Cameron Campbell heading towards Blanchimont in the number 14. We haven't looked inside the Porsche yet. One of my favorite interiors on a race car.
I was gonna say, it is a really solid interior.
Little slower corner speed, about 3 under the number 2. But you heard when he went to the brakes, you heard the engine kind of strain against the brakes because he kept maintenance throttle in. So he's been seeing what had happened to him earlier and what was happening to the Audis, and he's made a correction in the driving to prevent the car from stepping out. And that's great that he's recognized that just keeping a little bit of throttle in keeps the car stabilized in those high-speed corners.
Yeah, he's just got to work half a lap to go, and he'll be taking the checkered flag first. Absolutely zero pressure from behind.
Yeah, started this race in second place. Remember, he lost the pole late in the qualifying session, didn't have time or laps left to go run that pole back down, and ran second to Berg for the first couple laps, and then narrowly missed the number 4 as it slid at the exit of the no-name corner. And that was quite the moment. There was not even a scratch on the side of this 2 car where he scraped by the 4. He just managed to somehow pick the perfect line fitting that led to him getting the lead and then never looking back.
Yeah, I was going to say, he did get really lucky. He hit the car in any wrong place. For example, he hit on any of the right side tires, and it could be a disaster. So Cameron Campbell, I think, ran into some more issues.
14 heading down the hill, just trying to limp this one back home. But for the number 2, started in second, but got to the lead with a narrow avoidance of the number 4. He will come out of the final turn here at Spa. He will win race 1 of round 4 for the driving club at Road Atlanta here at Spa, and picks up a win on the night. Here comes Berg into the final chicane, and he wrestled this car home, but I bet you he learned a lot that he can apply for that second race.
I think he's going to be happy that he has the second race to try to bounce back, and as you mentioned, just use what he learned in this event to help him potentially get the win.
Cameron Campbell now heading down towards campus and in the last couple turns on the circuit. Just trying to stop the bleeding on this one as well. He's going to need to get that car repaired for this second race and start with a fresh car and some knowledge gained. I think he's going to be in a better position to maintain or move forward in 18-lap race number 2.
Yeah, that's not a whole lot of issues. I mentioned at the beginning of this lap for him that he had an off. He actually just over-slowed down to Lake Holmes, I think, just taking it easy because he knows he really can't do much better than third. So other than that one incident out of Blanchimont, the car is actually pretty good. So we'll see if he can do any better here as he works through the final chicane.
Last turn for Cameron Campbell before they'll do it again. Big slide in the final corner, but he will make it to the checkers. Third place, a podium for the number 14. Comes across the line in third position. Well, race number 1 is complete. We're heading into race number 2 here shortly. You're watching SimTV. Kyle Heyer, joined by Finney and DeCuna. Tomorrow night, the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada heads to the Red Bull Ring. Visit twitch.tv/Porsche to watch SimTV broadcast that special event. We're going to take a very short break before we kick things off for race number 2. We'll be back in a few minutes. Back live for the Driving Club at Road Atlanta, the final race of the season. These three competitors going head-to-head for 18 laps here at Spa-Francorchamps. I'm Kyle Heyer, joined by Finney DeCuna for one final race in the 2022 spring season. Cars rolling off. We've lost Anthony Couch to a crash earlier this evening. He is no longer in the server, so it's just these three going head-to-head for the final race. But what we learned is that Berg and Habib on equal footing are about the same pace. But when it comes to the length of the race, it's going to be whoever survives the longest that will walk off the winner.
Yeah, so it looks like this guy is trying to do an Indianapolis start. We're at Spa, guys, not Indianapolis. Line of three abreast. But yeah, essentially, I really think that this race is going to be a duel between Habib and Berg. Berg essentially making up the deficit. They're going to be on relatively even footing. Let's see which one of these two can try to come ahead of the other. Habib looking a little bit more stable. Berg, maybe he's hiding something, maybe he changed something. We don't know if he made any adjustments in the warm-up session. Maybe he try to find more pace in that Mercedes. But I think he's definitely going to be the one pursuing in this one.
Yeah, I think we just saw that he's really okay with being aggressive. And again, Habib is going to have to be very careful in this Audi on the opening lap to keep the tire pressures or keep the tires stuck to the road with the low tire pressures that we're going to have, low tire temperatures we're going to have. So this 2 car is going to have to be careful. The 4 car doesn't have to be quite so careful until we get deeper into the run. That's where he struggled last time around. Coming down the hill towards Eau Rouge and Radillon. Green flag, and we're racing for the final time this season here at Spa. Down side by side into Eau Rouge and Radillon, and up the hill. Are they going to make contact? They're going to touch, and they're gone. The 2 car is going to slam the wall. And that's it.
Oh, no.
That's
the last thing that he needed to do.
That's big time damage, too. And that's going to be a pretty major hit for the 2 car. Here's another look at the start. They headed down the hill, and they went side by side into here. Drifts off the line. Kind of did that to himself a little bit there. The 4 car couldn't really do much about it. But ends up in the wall, and that's going to be pretty much terminal damage. He'll be able to roll, but it's not going to be competitive at this point.
No, absolutely not. I think really then it's really going to be Berg. He's going to be his own worst enemy. As long as he can make it through, should be able to take this. But yeah, for Habib, Berg pretty much gave him as much room as humanly possible for the Mercedes himself to make it through that corner. I mean, he almost got caught up in the aftermath. But yeah, if you just push the car just a little bit too far, a little bit too much, than what it can handle.
Well, the lead, that carrot is dangling for Cameron Campbell with Berg. You see Berg kind of flashing. He had a disconnection previously before we loaded back in. Yeah, so
just the end of race 1.
Yeah, that would be an unfortunate end to his night if the internet were to flash out on him. And Cameron Campbell in the 14 chasing about 1.9 seconds behind. We know the 4 car is quicker than the 14. So now it's just a matter of time if the 3 car is able, or the 3rd place car rather, is able to gain any ground back. But that car again is going to be so damaged, that rear wing is going to be essentially useless.
Yeah, pretty much. We're see if he's going to come in to maybe fix that. Actually, let me check if he's got any meatball flag. Took a decent hit. Apparently, no meatball flag. So he can actually continue to race like this if he wants. Again, really, if he wants to or not is going to be a big question, I guess.
Well, now it just comes down to, is it worth staying out there for? If there's no way to gain ground, then it's going to be a pretty futile next 17 laps or so as Berg comes across the line, leading the way down into La Source. And just behind 2.6 seconds back is Campbell in the 14.
I will say, though, that if he does stay out, which I think he probably is going to do, I mean, if he pits, he definitely is not going to win this. If he stays out, he's going to lose some time. But, if Berg makes a mistake, and again, we've seen that car be pretty wild and all over the place, he makes a mistake, you can see Habib rocket past the Mercedes, and then Berg will be the one chasing it again.
Yeah, we'll have to keep our eyes on what happens in the next 17 laps or so. And Berg, again, he only had 1 actual spin last race. So there is always the potential for more, or he could have cleaned it up, and that was that 1 mistake, but he's just hustling this car.
He's throwing the cars over the curbs, which is not the best thing to do, because especially the curbs in this particular session with the way the heat is, the track being a little bit slicker. It's actually cooled down a little bit. It's about 102 track temp now. once again. It's 75 in the air, so it's cooled down a little bit. But with the way these guys, the cars have been slipping and sliding all over the place, the curbs are only making everything worse. So I would try to stay off the curbs. It gets very close to them.
Yeah, run 4 tires on him. Why not? Why don't you go after it? But I'll give him an A for an effort, just for how aggressively he's been chasing after this tonight. Making it fun to watch dynamically. And with the low car count, that's kind of been our focus, is just watching how these drivers are hustling these cars.
We're going to see what the lap time there is going to look like for Habib. It's not, I think he's losing maybe a second or so. It's actually not that bad. I was expecting worse considering the state of that rear wing.
Yeah, I think this will be the true indicator when he comes back around. You know, how much time he'll actually be losing. But again, it's 11.5 seconds. Now, remember that he only gained about 4 to 5 seconds on Berg that entire race if you discount the spin that the 4 car had. So it's still looking like an uphill climb with a damaged car versus one that is currently not.
Yeah, and I think also the big thing to mention too is that let's see, actually, where did he? He also took a little bit of a hit in the rear. I remember we were talking about, you know, where the important bits are. Well, the engine's in, well, technically mid-engine, but closer to the rear end of the car. So when he damaged that, it damaged the rear of the car. It's gonna start hurting your horsepower. And it does look like he's a bit down in speed compared to where he was in Heat 1, by about 2 or 3 miles an hour at the end of the straightaway, which again isn't a whole lot, but can make a difference.
I'll tell you what, that lap time was not half bad, all things considered. So we'll continue updating you on his progress.
Oh, Berg in the grass.
On the straightaway.
Yeah, on the straightaway. Not sure what happened there.
Let's have a look. Could have been opening a Google Chrome tab there for a second.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that was definitely something
Distraction.
IRL was interfering.
That's the classic distraction giveaway when you've got someone driving down the grass on the straight. But yeah, Habib is making up ground on Campbell here. 3.7 up to the second place car.
If he somehow catches it with that state of rear wing, I'll be genuinely impressed.
Yeah, he's doing it. Campbell has been consistent.
Oh, Berg off the track in Pouhon.
Ooh, you see some dust flying. You take the camera off him for 2 seconds, and he doesn't get something like that. That's what I get. Down into Pouhon, watches again, turns in. Right there, gets a little slippery and out wide. And that's a dangerous place to be.
I was gonna say I was gonna be scared if he's gonna go over the Voldemort curve.
The Voldemort curve. There you go. We've named a new track feature of Spa.
I'm really curious on the new version of Spa, right? Because the skin is what, 10 years old? Oh God, he's doing something else again. Off to the left. Since this skin is about what, 10 years old, if they've smoothened that part out, I gotta imagine that's been taken away because it seems like a very big safety hazard.
Well, I would have to imagine. Also, it's very generous of you to think that the skin is only 10 years old.
Actually, yeah, you're right. It's probably older than that. Probably closer, maybe almost to 14.
I think it's
maybe 15.
12. I think there's some signage that if I could find it.
I think they took it out.
No, I think it still exists somewhere. Maybe they did.
Oh, I think it's on the pit building.
It is. I don't have a good look at it, but I think it says 2010 on it.
Yeah.
Which I will give iRacing credit where credit is due. They have gone back, and the redo of Road Atlanta is genuinely really, 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 really good. The only thing that Road Atlanta is missing now is the turn 3 curb is not quite proper. It's still, pre-2015 or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. The rest of the track looks incredible. Watkins Glen's rescan obviously looked really good. I know they're working on a Sebring one. Ooh, that's a big cut there for the 14. But they've caught up a little bit in their ways. I think Road America deserved a real rescan instead of just a freshening up. But in general, I think you have to give them credit where credit's due. Here comes the 2 car with that slowdown from the 14. And pass complete, Habib on Campbell.
One less thing to worry about for the number 2. Now try to set his sights on the number 4. He's still making up time.
He made up time.
Down.
Yeah. He gained about a full second and 4/10 last time around. So, well, I discounted him way too early. That damage is not as severe as it looks.
I mean, it looks pretty severe. Apparently it's not, because he looks pretty much like he was driving before. In fact, I almost want to say he's actually continuing the same pace. Well, let me check the lap times because I have that ability.
Yeah, I think he was in the 22s, so I think he's kind of on.
Yeah, so lap 4 of the heat, you're at a 22.5. He actually went 3 times faster this time.
Well, there's the magic success to an Audi. To go fast, you just crash it first and make it. that's not very German of
you
it.
You gotta wear it in.
Yeah, yeah. That's not a very German characteristic to have to smash something up before it works. That's more of an Italian thing.
Looking at smashing metal.
Looking at Ferrari and Lamborghini in particular. The German thing is like where they design it so well in the factory that the tolerances are so tight and perfect that nothing moves when they put it all together because it's just so elegantly put together. Overly complicated, but elegant.
But it works.
Yeah. If it's dumb and it works, it's not that dumb. So, lap 5 of 18. Campbell's within a second and a half of Habib. That was not a great lap for the 2 car. He lost some ground there. Berg went quicker, a 2:21.798. That's his best lap of the day.
Yeah, really quick. I think just a tad bit slower than his unofficial quickest lap in the first race, which is a 21 point. Sorry. Yeah, he ran a he ran a 21.6 in the first race. Around 20.1.7 here.
Yeah, Cameron Campbell reeled him in just a touch, 1.3 seconds. We got a good view of what a 12-second lead actually looks like. Let's do this again from Bruxelles here, down into the right-hander as he goes out of view here. And this is what 12 and a half seconds actually looks like. It's significant.
But, yeah, and he's going to try to make that up with a handicap car, slightly handicapped car.
Right, but it's also time that can be given away with a single spin, so it's not maybe as much as it looks if you were to have any sort of attrition or any sort of issue on the 4. And he's been decidedly calmer in driving characteristics in this race.
Although compared to the
whoa, spin, the 2 car.
No.
And Campbell's going to drive. Oh, he spins too. They're both going to spin in Pujon.
Oil probably down on that section of track. Interesting to see both cars lose it.
Yeah, different lines there, but very similar results. And both cars spin at once. They're going to go right back to battling how they were, but this time with 10 seconds slapped on top of that 12-second gap we just had.
Yes, 23 seconds, almost 24 there.
Yeah, now the tire temperature is going to start to eat into this too. He's got the tires overheated, and it's just going to get worse.
And then the next big corner trouble spot, he actually went out wide there because he was struggling to maintain the rear end grip. This is going to be the big trouble spot here, Blanchimont. We've seen Habib in the race taking it very conservatively, and I imagine with the near spin he had before, yeah, he took it very conservatively there, kept the car going straight.
Oh, Campbell a little wide there on exit, but sometimes running wide there is a safer bet. If you know you're going to have to pull the car tight, you just let it run wide. And
ooh, and a black flag for Campbell. Okay, I actually had to slow down. That's what it was.
Okay. Berg up the hill through Radillon. And at this point, next time by, it's going to be the start.
Oh.
What's that?
Oh, no, he almost took up the cone.
Oh.
The pit exit cone, the blue one, he almost took that out.
I was going to mention that next time by the stripe is essentially starting race 1 over again in terms of the length we've got remaining. It's about 30 minutes of racing remaining at this particular moment. And it's Berg, Habib, and Campbell, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, big question is now, I guess we thought Habib was closing in on Berg. Now can Habib stay away from Campbell?
Yeah, I think at this point, unless Berg spins out the window, is a win for the 2. And it's going to turn into more, can Habib keep the car in one piece ahead of Cameron Campbell at this point? I think the battle's for second. Berg is long gone.
Unless he bins it.
Unless he bins it. There's always that. But you could be leading a race by 5 laps, and that would still be something to worry about until you get 5 to go.
I was going to say, I asked her at Le Mans.
Too soon. Still.
Was that 2016, I think? I don't know. I want to say it was 2016.
We'll never forget that day.
It's like the laws of nature just giving you the middle finger, right? You go 23 hours and 56 minutes without a failure, and it happens on the last lap of the race.
Yeah, I can relate to feeling like that. In the braking zone for the bus stop for Berg, and now beginning the final 12 revolutions of the Spa-Francorchamps circuit. While we've got a moment, while it's quieted down again, let's have another look at the track map. Again, we poked around about this earlier, but the trouble spots today have been Pouhon, which is the center of your screen, as well as Blanchimont. So those are kind of right next to each other on your screen. But the thing they have in common is that they're high speed and relatively low, or relatively high speed and high radius. They're not tight. So what you end up with is you have so much speed going into it that you don't have a lot of wheel into it either. So you can't really rely a ton on the downforce of the car. You just turn in, and you're not really turning all that much, but you still have a lot of grip that is required to make you round that corner at that speed. So you end up kind of with that tricky scenario where if you put any of the weight on the front of the car, all that mechanical grip goes away, and then you're stuck in a spin situation. So those have been the trouble spots so far. Strangely enough, Eau Rouge and Radillon have been fairly inconsequential, with the exception of that lap 1 crash.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm a bit surprised with that too. I was expecting to see something happen at the beginning of the last race. You have cold tires, someone goes in a little bit too hard. Essentially what we saw with the second race, and someone going spinning off. But yeah, it was fairly clean in regards to pretty much every single lap, except for, like you mentioned, Habib crashing at the start.
So Berg and Habib are the front two. 25 seconds is the difference. And Berg just ran a 2:21.546, which actually would have been his best lap had it been a legal one. He went off track, and that did not count in terms of the best lap column. And working towards the halfway point of this race. So I got a couple exciting races coming up. I've got NOLA Motorsports Park next weekend for Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. I'll be down at New Orleans Well, I guess it'd just be NOLA Motorsports Park. I'll be down there doing trackside PA for that group, and then the following week, I'm going to get back on Monday, and then on Tuesday, I'm going to be headed up to Gingerman Raceway for the beginning of the week for Grid Life's Midwest Festival, which, if you're not familiar with Grid Life, is a Midwestern motorsports and music festival that sort of travels the country. Most of the year it's motorsports, and a couple times of the year we've got a big music festival attached to it. And
actually, has Midwest been this early before? Or is it normally in the summer?
It's actually the traditional date is June, the first weekend in June, which is what is coming up in about 2 weeks' time. And for the last 2 years, it ran in the fall, in September, to try to, this was during the pandemic, when we tried to give the pandemic enough time to kind of disperse before we had the festival. And it didn't happen, so we just ended up having it in September 2 years in a row for no real reason. But now we've shifted it back to its traditional date, and really excited for Grid Life Touring Cup. Going to be only my second broadcast of that this year. I'll be on the live broadcast with Greg Kramer. That we just confirmed him today, so Greg Kramer will be back again for that one. So that'll be a lot of fun. And all new broadcast package and stuff that I spent hours and hours and hours developing, so really excited to get that. And very expensive graphics package to integrate, on the order of deep into the five figures. So,
oh boy, that's a lot of money. Wow.
Yeah.
Are you guys still using the same guys to stream it?
Yeah, we got the same stream group, and the big difference. So basically, if you're ever curious about how the graphics work in the real world at a grassroots level, the timing and scoring system, the transponders, every time they come across the timing loop, all they're doing, they don't actually know anything. All they're doing is they're just pinging a radio signal. So the transponder is just a number that just pings the signal. And there's a program that MyLapse has called Orbits, which does all the data organization. It figures out how long it was from the last ping and is actually what, carries the data and associates that with the transponder number. So our graphics currently, they just take all that information in real time. So like every millisecond, essentially, it's updating. And it doesn't need to do that. And it also makes it challenging to make a ticker that pans and scrolls and does all the things you need to do. So what we're paying for, essentially, is a software link to be created that takes and paginates all that data and turns it into something that you can save. Because right now, if like we were to advance from one session to the next, all that data is instantly wiped. And that's not something we necessarily want. We want to hang on to that for a little while so we can do math on it. And that's what is so expensive. The actual, changing of data is not, or changing the graphics package is not all that challenging. But we will have driver photos in the lower thirds this year, and we're tying in a database with car colors and stuff as accents for stuff on the broadcast. So it's a pretty well included. I just spat out a bunch of nerdery for a couple minutes there, but it's all I've been doing for 2 weeks.
Because it's cool because you don't really hear about that side of the industry at all.
Well, it's hard to even get information on how it works in other organizations. Like I work at World Challenge and am pretty familiar with how the broadcast works, but I don't actually even know how their graphics function or who designs them or how they built them.
Yeah, because everyone keeps it to themselves.
Yeah, it's pretty secret. Even there's a lot of programs that are designed to run overlays that have dynamic inputs, and that's all fine and dandy, but a lot of those, again, don't tell you what they cost, and B, number two, or whatever you want to call it, the thing that we need to do isn't to get data dynamically into a graphic. That can be done with any program. We're building custom software to translate this timing jargon into something we can actually use. So that's really where the expense is in all this.
So you guys pay. As far as like integrating into the graphics, who does that?
So there's a team so our stream team is the same group of people that is responsible for a lot of the video shooting of those what do you call those things? The drift city hoonigan. What do they call those things?
I'm not sure. Yeah.
Like when they drift through city, like Travis Poisson drifts through a city and it's called the thing. They do all the video shooting for that.
Oh.
Gymkhana.
Gymkhana, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So a bunch of their shooters, their camera shooters, are shooters on that project, and so they don't actually really stream as a business. That's sort of their side gig with us, is just to stream. But they have a bunch of developers in house. Well, I should say a bunch. They have 2 developers in house that build all of the visions that we have. But they're very, very talented people and command a price that is requisite with their skill set.
Gotcha.
So, and they own it all. So I can't like go in there and modify things because A, I don't know, and B, we don't own it. So
Gotcha.
Trouble for the second place car. Habib has found some trouble, and that is likely going to be terminal damage. This is through Blanchimont.
Yeah, this is where I was kind of expecting to see the most trouble out of the 2 with that damage.
Yeah, he just didn't quite get down to the apex, got offline, and then nothing he could have done to save that.
Yeah.
And with that, that car is going to be done.
Yep. Meatball flag for him.
So that just leaves, and then there were 2.
Yeah.
But yeah, going back to the stream stuff, it's been a vision of mine for a long time to have the ticker do a whole bunch of things that my sim racing tickers do. And it's been a couple years in the making for that to actually come to life. And I think we're finally at the point where we just have to say screw it and pay the fee and get it done and build it the way we want to build it. Because we also tentatively have a Twitch partnership to be front page on Twitch for Midwest.
Ooh.
So, which is going to be tens of thousands of viewers, so it's worth getting it right the first time.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. We get 4 hours total of Midwest on the homepage. So it'll be 2 hours a day split up into 1 hour shows. Each of those shows will contain a GLTC race. So I've been, my real job is mostly just spending time developing run-of-shows for the broadcast. Assembling driver data. Like if I showed you the spreadsheet I'm currently working on, it contains all of the people that have historically raced, are racing, or will race in GLTC and Time Attack and Drift, with hometowns, transponder numbers, car colors, team names, year, make, and model of their vehicle, all organized by car number. And there are 450 Time Attack drivers in that list or something like that.
Oh, God. That's a lot.
Yeah, so and that has to all be 100% perfect and correct grammatically. So you have to go hunt through and find out all the people that are driving Mazda Miata, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point, Miatas. Or one guy had a 2021 full send special as his year, make, and model. So you have to go and filter that stuff out manually so it doesn't pop up on the broadcast that this guy's driving a 2021 full send special.
Mm-hmm.
Because that would suck.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Well, here's another example, right? Like, we have a form that people fill out when they buy a ticket for a Grid Life event. Mm. And when they fill that out, that form last got an update in 2017. So when you went to select your make and model of your vehicle, the form only went up to 2017. And nobody noticed this until last year on the broadcast when we were showing a Supra. And it said 2017 Toyota Supra, and I thought to myself, you know what? I don't think that car exists. So I had to go back and look through, and here, lo and behold, now we have a list of 400 people where if the car is 2017 or newer, I have no idea what year it is. So I have to go track them all down and figure that out.
What? So why on the form is there not just like a blank space for the year?
Because it wasn't built like that, I guess. This was before my time. 3 years before I got hired. So
right.
So it's a manual process for all these broadcasts to look the way they do, and obviously we're very lucky at SimTV to have software like ATVO which already does all the coding.
It does all the grunt work.
Yeah, it does all the connecting. So all you have to do is do the animations and all the slick stuff, to add all the data to it.
Yep. And I'm glad you know how to do it because I know Jack.
Well, it's pretty intuitive. It's just a matter of patience to set it up the way you want it, and to organize the button control panels and all that. But in reality, you're pulling from databases in the real world, right? And you have to set up that database and link it and tell your graphics, where to look for that data, and then have an API to pull that data. So there's a lot that goes into broadcasts, behind the scenes. That and sometimes you're wondering, are we doing this right? Is this how everyone does it? And I don't know if there's an answer to that question.
I was gonna say I don't think there really is. Imagine if you look at the way NASCAR does it, the way F1 does it, IndyCar, IMSA, WEC, MotoGP, everyone's probably doing it a completely different way, but it's all coming out with the same end product. So.
Right. Yeah. And
as long as it works.
Yeah, and you also have to wonder, how much money do they spend developing those things, right? Like Formula One, for example. Yeah. I'm sure that's a team of 30 or 40 people, that are working around the clock. Every week there's a new graphic, and that has to be coded and has a database that feeds it.
And the people that design all their different animations, all the different footage, shoot all the footage, it's it gets crazy.
Yeah, and some of that, you and I were having a discussion, the Formula One race at Miami, there was a graphic that popped up. There's no way that they planned for that to have the data that it contained. They must have some sort of real-time, I can say what I want in this spot graphic.
Yeah, I can only imagine how chaotic the rooms are, for the stream itself, and to pull stuff up and everything, and make sure that it all works. I can imagine how chaotic those get during a race.
Oh, very.
Right.
I mean, it's really interesting to listen to. I'm not even talking about graphics. Just to listen to, Clark from SRO's production team or Matt from Grid Life's production team. When you hear them just directing the camera shots, it's chaotic. And then you throw in the graphics into the mix, which, in our case, in the past have been pretty static. It's just a ticker that just runs, and a lower third maybe once in a while. But then we had a graphic that would populate live time or live in-car data. Speed and lap and predicted lap time. And so what happened there was we had to have this app open and have there was a user ID number that we had to correspond with a Google Sheet, and then decide if they were someone that we wanted to look at. And then we had to find them on the racetrack with the camera. And then we had to copy and paste that driver ID into the parser that pulled that data from the app, and then to hit a button to display the graphic. So it was actually like a 35-second process to pull up one graphic for one guy, and then by the time you did that, the lap was over, and then it was useless to show. So there's a lot. It happens fast.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because you have to think about like what you're trying to pull up ahead, and unlike us where we just kind of hit the button and magically show right then and there. Because I even had when I was doing the Porsche broadcast, I guess experienced that because we had the webcam footage.
Yeah.
And I had to go select think of who I wanted to show, find them on the track, and then also find them in the Zoom call.
Yep. Yeah.
And pull that up.
Yeah, there's a lot.
And then usually by the time I found that, they were done with whatever interesting thing they were about to do, like make a pass or whatever. And so then I was like, I had to go somewhere, or something else was happening. So yeah, I can only imagine how that is at a much larger scale.
Yeah, imagine having something like this in the real world where you could just decide that you want to look at a car and click on it.
Magic!
Yeah, this is a really neat feature, by the way, the spotter guide. This is a new thing that the ATVO software allows. But again, it's just we're very spoiled in the sim racing world with tools that have to be constructed, built, and paid for. In the real world.
I'm just realizing that it uses the paint scheme, like the training paint schemes on the car.
Cameron
Just noticing
Campbell
that.
run a little wide there to give up some time. Yeah, I mean it's pretty neat. I think it just loads the same way that it would work in the iRacing UI.
Right. Yeah.
But it's very nice looking for sure. Ooh, Bird getting after it here. Coming up on 5 laps to go, by the way, nothing's changed, so we're just kind of do a little podcast, I suppose, about broadcast graphics.
Yeah, speaking of a podcast, I wanted to do I've actually thought about wanting to do a podcast
about
for
what?
a long time. So I don't know, just about mainly motorsport stuff and sim racing stuff.
Yeah, I've thought about
could be
that.
kind of gen.
I'm just not really sure.
I've like thought about that since we graduated. So I was like 2 years ago. Actually, I think before that. Actually, no. I thought about 2 years ago. I was like, hey, that would sound interesting. But your schedule is completely over the goddamn place. So, especially at that time too, because you had absolutely no idea when and where you were going, and I don't think you started doing SRO yet.
Yeah.
So,
so 2020 was an interesting year. I basically got out of college not having any clue what I was doing. I was just showing up to racetracks with Grid Life. And then by August, I was working for World Challenge, but it didn't feel like it was going to be a permanent thing. I didn't know if I was going to come back the next week or not. And then come the fall, they both wanted me, and then now I've kind of worked full-time for one and part-time for the other. But my schedule now is about 22 weekends a year I'm traveling.
Great about it.
Yeah, it's exhausting. I mean, it's living with Tom O'Gorman, who was a professional race car driver in his past career, and is currently amateur race car driver and a driver coach. When he gets home, he would just lounge around and do absolutely nothing because he was just so exhausted from going places.
Yeah.
Just drains you. Not that I'm miserable by any stretch. I'm having a great time, but it's a lot.
You should vlog. Like, I don't know. I feel like I could see you as a blogger.
Blogging? Like typing?
No,
vlogging.
Vlogging.
I've thought about that a couple times. I'm like, I've never really.
You definitely have the personality for it. Like, I'm boring as shit. So, sorry,
you're losing the broadcast.
I'm a very boring person. It's like I'm a very simple person, I guess is the best way to put it. So I don't think I could be too interesting on camera by myself. I can play off someone, but I don't think I can do it by myself. You, on the other hand, work pretty well. So I think that can work with you.
I've never been super comfortable in front of a camera, which is my big. I think if I started doing it, I'd be all right with that. But I used to hate my voice too, and look what happened there.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, which is amazing because you have a really good voice for streaming. So your voice sounds very professional.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate
it. I think the speaking part is I would say it's more than half the battle. It's half the battle, making sure you can speak properly, because you don't want to vlog like, hey, and you can't hear a word they're saying. So,
what's up, everybody? What's up, guys? Welcome back to the vlog. Looks like
gang?
Meanwhile, Cameron Campbell, I think, is serving a penalty here for track limit, so he's headed on down.
Yeah, he's had quite a few off-track excursions. He made contact with the wall at one point. He actually, if you look at his rear wing, he backed it into the wall in Pouan a couple laps ago. Nothing too crazy, but yeah, I think he had to do a drive-through. He got over 20 incident points.
Yeah, so heading down pit lane to roll back out. But yeah, going back, I actually tried. There was a couple times back in 2020 that I brought a GoPro with me, and I tried to do it a little bit, but I didn't have any real direction of what I was doing.
Yeah, and plus now you know a lot of people, right? Like
Yeah,
you have a lot of people you can like go and be like, hey.
Yeah, it's a little different now that I can actually talk to people. The one thing that's keeping me from doing that is, I sort of live a double life. Here's Burke slowing down. I sort of live a double life with Grid Life and World Challenge, and in Grid Life it'd be totally acceptable to vlog while I work. I'm not sure that would be the case at World Challenge, and that's one of the more interesting things that I do.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm guessing it's probably more restricted, but I can't imagine that they're too like I'm sure like in like back room in the when you're actually doing stuff.
Yeah, I don't think it'd
be a big deal.
I
think being at the event, you could probably get away with quite a bit of stuff.
Yeah, it'd be one of those things you'd update a couple times a day. Not necessarily every moment, every interaction, and there's also a lot that they don't want you to see. Inside the tech trailer, there's things that are private knowledge. But it's an interesting idea for sure. If not now, when, I guess, right?
Yeah, I mean, you got to start now. See you at 1 million subs.
Yeah, exactly. Well, whoa, big slide for the leader. It's something I've thought about. It's like, in the Grid Life community, I'm to the point now where a lot of people know who I am, and I know not as many of those people as I probably should. In the SRO community, I'm still, to most of the paddock there, I'm still kind of a nobody. But there'll be people at Grid Life that probably watch that. I think one thing I need to get better at, regardless of social media, I suck at social media.
Oh yeah, I'm horrible too. I'm sure half of the people that know me or friends with me, they probably think I'm dead. I just don't upload. I don't upload anything on Instagram.
Do you browse it at least? Do you browse?
No, I don't.
You don't even look at Facebook.
I don't look at Facebook or Instagram. The only time I look at Facebook is if I get a notification for someone's birthday, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's a birthday. And that's the only time I'll actually click on something.
That's amazing, because I am a lurker a lot. I post very little.
No, I don't care at all.
Man. All right, here we go. 3 laps to go. Berg and Campbell going at it here. And again, Campbell is a lap down at this point. I think they're just tailing this season off.
Yeah, Campbell's about to be a lap down.
Yes.
He's technically fighting to be in the lead lap.
He's 0.99 laps down.
I'm curious Berg is going to try to seal the deal or just kind of sitting behind. No point in necessarily trying to pass him.
I think they're just kind of toying with each other here at the very end of this, and Berg isn't going to force the deal here.
Using all the Mercedes ponies, catch up.
Here he comes to the inside and should make easy work here into the braking zone unless Campbell tries to outbrake him. Not quite going to have enough brake power to do it. Berg lifts on the corner exit. Here comes Campbell.
Oh.
Contact there. Timed that a little bit wrong and got into the back of the 4.
Berg fighting someone else on the track, so he might as well have a battle last 3 laps.
Exactly. Through no name. And into Pujon for the third to last time. Ooh, that was a...
I was going to say, I don't think you want to.
A poke there is what I call that into Pujon.
Yeah, this next section is actually pretty decent when it comes to passing. If you get but you have to get a really solid run out of Pujon to have an attempt into the right-hander here. Campbell a little bit offline.
Whoa.
Berg has a chance to stick nose in. And he's got a bit of a run, but Campbell going to block.
Right up onto the tailpipes of the Porsche. On board now with the Merc. So here's an interesting question for you as we watch these two battle. I've been told to always refer, I should maybe hold my thought here as they go side by side into Blanchimont.
Wait till they're clear.
I'm not, okay, there they go. I've always been told by people at World Challenge, which have, obviously direct requests from the manufacturer, to refer to the Mercedes GT3 car as always as Mercedes AMG, as if that's the manufacturer.
Yeah, because I think isn't AMG their performance division.
So what is this car?
Mercedes AMG GT3.
But what's the non-GT3 version? Is it just a Mercedes AMG GT or something? Because I
think
don't actually know what the model name of this car is. I know it's the model, or the make name is Mercedes AMG, but maybe it's just the performance brand is this car.
Actually, yeah, that is a good question. Let's do
Right?
some research. While these two go side by side.
Yeah, 2 laps to go. It's just an interesting branding question, right? I mean, because there's obviously AMG vehicles that are not the coupe.
Yeah, I never thought of that. Oh! And now the Mercedes AMG GT3 is banged up.
Well, he'll have to get it turned back around.
So there is a actual, so looking up on Mercedes USA website, there is a AMG GT Coupe for sale.
AMG GT Coupe.
Yep, and it looks exactly like this car, except without the wings and all the fancy bits.
All right. Oh boy.
So it's basically a GT. It's a GT basically.
Okay.
Like
and I guess they just lop off the GT because it's a GT3 spec car, so it's kind of redundant.
Yeah, so they don't call it Mercedes AMG GT GT3 because that would just be a dumb name.
Okay, I think that answers my question. But it is certainly a good-looking car. I wish we get the Evo variant of this car.
Ooh, the Mercedes AMG GT Black Series looks very nice. We'll throw a wing and a splitter on there. That looks really good. It's fairly expensive though because let's see, I can't even see what the Black Series costs, but the regular car starts at a discounted price of $118,000. It's a joke about the discount. It's a joke about the discount.
Okay. 118 grand.
Yeah.
It's a lot of Scion FRSs, huh?
That's exactly how I was thinking of it. You could buy, what, like 3 or almost 4 with that money?
Brand new ones.
Yeah.
My car you could buy 6 of, 8 of.
You can have a fleet. You can start an entire GLTC team.
You could have
like
your own.
4
Yeah,
of them.
it be looking like Andy Smedgard Motorsports at that point. But no.
Oh,
He's pitting on the last lap. I don't know about
well,
this.
I think he's got a black flag. I wasn't sure that was a slowdown or not. I think that might have been for incidents.
Oh my goodness, this is gonna be the most tidy last lap ever. Just white flag waves. Woo! 1 to go. Oh my goodness.
And that Mercedes AMG GT3 has seen better days.
It's a long.
Any other weird manufacturer?
Well, we got told. Well, not that I can think of. We got told. Oh, we bounced over the bump there. There is going to be at NOLA. There's going to be the new Lotus Emira.
Oh, yeah,
GT4, that'll be a brand new car to SRO competition, which I'm really excited about. It's a cool-looking car. Last internal combustion engine Lotus ever, which makes me very, very sad to say.
Ooh, looks nice.
Yeah,
hopefully it's quick.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, again, the balance of performance was just set at Sonoma recently for the season, so...
Although I will say, looking at it at a glance, if you took away the badge, I would say it's a Ferrari.
Right.
It looks very much like a Ferrari.
Yeah, I think a lot of mid-engine supercars sort of share an identity problem.
Because I think what is it? Not the where's the Evora? The Evora, yeah, the Evora look like a proper Lotus car that what I would say would be like a proper Lotus. It's got the bug eye taillights and very tiny taillights, and it has a distinguishable front headlight, but the Emira, good looking, looks a lot like a Ferrari. Yeah. Actually, it has the front end of a Ferrari and the rear of a Porsche.
Yeah, and then Ferrari's got their new GT3 car on the way soon, which will be a pretty cool looking vehicle.
It'd be cool, but I don't think it beats the 458 and the 488.
The 458 and 488 are such classic cars, but the new car is very swoopy. It reminds me a lot of the Ford GT, how low slung. It's almost prototype looking in some ways.
I wonder why.
Well, they figured out that they could build prototypes and then get them homologated as GT cars somehow. But well, for Berg in the number 4 is parading his way through the last bit of the middle sector. Cameron Campbell is still a long way from finishing up.
He's just taking the white flag. Meanwhile, Berg's on his way back to complete the final lap.
Yeah, so started with 4 tonight. Lost 2 with attrition. But this is the final race of the season, the last broadcast of the series for this season. And tonight, Berg is going to be the one that comes out on top in the second race of the night. Remember, he was leading, and it was the pole sitter for the first race, spun out and lost the lead, was never able to gain it back. But tonight in race number 2, after 18 laps, he will throttle his way out of the last corner, a bit of a power slide there, and will come across the start-finish line and win race number 2. All right, let's have a look here at the race results. It's going to be a fairly short list this evening, but Berg, Campbell, Habib, your top 3 in this second race here, Finian, and it looks like Berg is going to celebrate with some burnouts there, which are hard to do in a GT3 car with the traction control, but you can turn it off and try to give it a spin.
Yeah, I think he's just trying to do it with it on. Somewhat successful. Sure, the car's freaking out, thinking the driver's an idiot.
Giving it all he's got. Well, 2 races complete. Berg and Habib, your 2 winners this evening. That's going to do it for the broadcast here tonight. We'll see you next time on SimTV. Next up will be tomorrow night, the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada. That will be on twitch.tv/Porsche. It'll be myself and my buddy DJ Clark, who will be joining me tomorrow night. The next broadcast will be on Saturday for the Outsider Racing League. That's going to be it for now. We'll see you next time on SimTV. Thanks for watching.